3 months before my wedding, my sister stood in the marble foyer of Rosemont Hall and tore my deposit check into 8 perfect pieces, letting them flutter down onto the imported Italian tile like she was scattering rose petals at a funeral. My funeral. The funeral of every plan I had spent 2 years building. I watched the paper drift, and somewhere behind my ribs, something ancient and patient finally woke up and stretched. My name is Hadley Brennan, and at 34 years old, I had become very good at pretending to be smaller than I was. I had spent most of my life shrinking, folding myself into corners of rooms so my sister Camille could spread her arms wide. That afternoon, March 14th of 2025, on a Friday that smelled like rain and expensive lilies, I made the quiet decision to stop folding. But let me back up, because you need to understand how a woman like me ends up watching her own deposit check get ripped apart by her own sister, in a venue that, unknown to anyone in that room, belonged entirely to me. I grew up in a small town in Connecticut called Westbrook Falls, in a yellow house with a sagging porch and a mother who kept score. Our mother, Diane Brennan, had 2 daughters and exactly one favorite. Camille was older by 3 years, prettier in the way magazines define pretty, and she had a way of crying that made people apologize to her even when she was the one holding the knife. I was the quiet one. The one who read too much, who hid behind books, who got told I was too sensitive and too serious and too much of a lot of things that nobody wanted a girl to be. My father, Russell Brennan, was a good man who worked at a print shop and died of a heart attack when I was 11. After that, the house tilted permanently in the direction of Camille. Mom funneled every dollar, every compliment, every birthday candle into her. I learned to live on scraps. I learned that asking for things was a way to lose them. When I turned 18, I left for community college on a scholarship Mom did not even bother to attend the ceremony for. She was at a dance recital for Camille that day, even though Camille was 21 and had not danced seriously in years. I drove myself to the campus in a used Honda I had bought with diner tips, and I started building a life where nobody could rip anything up in front of me. I worked. God, did I work. I waited tables in the mornings and answered phones at a real estate office in the afternoons and took business classes at night. By 23, I had my bachelor degree. By 26, I had a small commercial cleaning company with 4 employees and 3 contracts. By 29, I had sold that company for enough money to buy into a struggling hospitality group as a junior partner. By 32, I had bought out the other partners. By 33, I owned 3 event venues across the Northeast, including the crown jewel of the portfolio, a restored 1890s estate in the rolling hills of upstate New York called Rosemont Hall. Nobody in my family knew any of this. Not really. They knew I worked in something they vaguely called business. Mom told her church friends I was in cleaning, which was technically true a decade ago, but had not been true for years. Camille told her Instagram followers I was a glorified maid. I let them believe it. I cannot fully explain why, except to say that when you grow up invisible, sometimes invisibility becomes a kind of armor you do not want to take off. I had a quiet life, a man I loved, and a business that ran like a Swiss watch. I did not need their approval. I did not want their hands in my pockets. The man I loved was named Theodore Vance. Everyone called him Theo. He was 36, an architect who designed sustainable homes, and he had asked me to marry him on a snowy December evening in Vermont in 2024. He had known me for 4 years by then. He knew exactly who I was, every layer of it, and he loved me anyway. Maybe because. The wedding was set for June 21st of 2025, the longest day of the year, at Rosemont Hall, because of course it was at Rosemont Hall. It was my place. My favorite place on earth. I had restored every inch of it with my own money and my own vision, and I wanted to marry the love of my life under its hand-carved oak beams. I told my family about the wedding in January. I did not tell them I owned the venue. I just said I had found a beautiful place upstate and that they were all invited. I sent Mom a save-the-date card with a picture of the rose garden on the front. She called me 3 days later, and her first words were, "Hadley, honey, that looks very expensive. Are you sure you can afford something like that? You do not want to embarrass yourself." I told her I had it handled. She made a small humming sound that meant she did not believe me. Camille called the next day. She had not called me in 7 months. Her voice was syrupy. "Hadley, that venue is gorgeous. How on earth did you swing it?" "I have been saving," I said. "For how long? 10 lifetimes." She laughed. I did not. "Listen, Mason and I have been talking about getting engaged." Mason was the boyfriend of 3 years. A finance guy with a soft chin and a louder family than ours. I had met him twice. He had been polite both times and seemed mostly afraid of Camille, which was a healthy starting point in my opinion. "That is exciting," I said carefully. "I was thinking I might propose to him, flip the script, surprise him." "That sounds nice. Where?" A long pause, then, "I have not decided yet. I will let you know." I should have heard the warning bells then. I did not. I was busy planning my own wedding and running 3 venues and trying to finalize a 4th property in Charleston. I let the conversation slide off me like rain. 2 weeks later, my venue coordinator at Rosemont Hall, a sharp woman named Priya Anand who had been with me since the beginning, called me on a Tuesday morning. She sounded uncertain, which was unusual for her. "Miss Brennan, I have a slightly strange situation. A woman called yesterday and booked the conservatory for a private surprise proposal on March 14th. She paid the full deposit. Cash transfer." "Okay," I said, "we do those all the time." "Yes, but her last name is Brennan. Camille Brennan. She asked specifically for the conservatory and the Rose Terrace, and she mentioned she had a sister getting married here in June and wanted to do her engagement at the same place first." The whole world went quiet. Outside my office window in Manhattan, a taxi blew its horn 3 floors below, and I did not hear it. "Priya," I said slowly, "did she mention the sister of her by name?" "She did, Hadley Brennan. She said the bride was going to be so jealous when she found out, and she laughed. I did not know how to respond, Miss Brennan, so I just processed the booking. She does not know you own this place, does she?" "No," I said, "she does not." I sat very still for a long moment. Outside, the taxi honked again. Inside me, that ancient patient thing rolled over and opened one eye. "Priya," I said, "do not cancel the booking. Do not say a word to her. Process everything exactly the way you would for any client. I will be there on March 14th. "Are you certain, Miss Brennan?" "I am absolutely certain." I hung up the phone and walked to my window. I thought about my father. I thought about how he used to sit me on his lap and tell me that some people will only ever see you the way they need to see you, and the trick in life is to stop needing them to see you any other way. I had carried that with me for 23 years. I had built an entire empire on it. But there is a difference between not needing someone to see you and letting them rip up your deposit check on the floor of a building you own. There is a line, and Camille had just stepped over it without even knowing the line was there. I picked up the phone and called Theo. I told him everything. He listened, the way he always listens, all the way to the end. And then he said the words that made me certain I was marrying the right man. "Hadley," he said, "let her come, let her have the whole tour. And then let the staff do exactly what they always do when you walk into that building. Do not say a word, just let her see." I smiled for the first time all morning. "That," I said, "is exactly what I plan to do." The night before March 14th, I did not sleep. I lay in our bed in our Brooklyn apartment with Theo breathing softly beside me, and I went through every memory of Camille like I was sorting through an attic. I wanted to be sure. I wanted to be sure I was not overreacting, that I was not being petty, that this confrontation was not something I was manufacturing out of old wounds. By 3 in the morning, I was sure. There was no manufacturing required. Camille had built the wounds herself, brick by brick, year after year, and she was about to lay one more. I want to tell you about Camille the way I really see her, not the way the family photo album sees her. Camille is beautiful. I will not pretend otherwise. She has the kind of face that gets free drinks and second chances. She is also, and this took me decades to admit, a person who has never once in her life felt full. Not from love, not from money, not from attention. Whatever she gets, she needs more of, and the easiest way for her to feel like she has more is to make sure I have less. When I was 7 and she was 10, she broke my favorite porcelain horse and told Mom I did it. When I was 12 and got cast as Dorothy in the school play, she told the drama teacher I had been bullying her, and I was demoted to Munchkin number 4. When I was 16 and brought home a boy named Caleb for the first time, she put on her shortest dress and sat on his lap at the kitchen table while I was getting drinks from the fridge. He stopped calling me after that. The pattern was always the same. She did not just want things for herself. She wanted them taken from me first. Mom called this Camille having a strong personality. Dad would have called it something else, I think, if he had lived long enough to see it clearly. When I started making real money in my late 20s, I made one mistake. I sent Mom $10,000 to fix her roof. I did it through a check written from my old cleaning company because I did not want them to know how much things had changed. Mom cashed the check, and 3 weeks later, Camille had new veneers. I never sent another dime. So here is the thing you need to understand. By March 14th of 2025, I was not a sister scorned by one mean joke. I was a woman who had been studied, manipulated, and undermined by another woman my whole life, and that other woman was about to walk into a building I owned and try to take something from me one more time. The drive from Brooklyn to Rosemont Hall takes about 2.5 hours if traffic is reasonable. Theo drove. I sat in the passenger seat in a simple cream-colored blouse and dark jeans and ballet flats because I wanted to look exactly like the woman my family thought I was. The hardworking, slightly tired, slightly underdressed Hadley. The Hadley who had probably scraped together a deposit by saving every penny for 2 years. I had my phone on silent, but Priya had already texted me twice that morning. Camille and Mom and Mason had arrived early, at 10:15. They were currently in the parking lot, Camille pacing in heels, Mom standing by the rose hedges taking pictures, Mason looking confused and holding a small velvet box he kept opening and closing. The tour was scheduled for 11. Priya had also confirmed that every staff member knew the plan. I had called all 27 of them the previous afternoon. I had explained, very simply, that my sister was coming for a venue tour, that she did not know I owned the estate, and that they were to treat her exactly as they would any guest. Polite, professional, warm, no special treatment. And when I arrived, they were to greet me the way they always greeted me, which was a small nod and a "Good morning, Miss Brennan," nothing dramatic, nothing rehearsed. The drama would write itself. I did not need to choreograph it. We pulled into the long gravel drive of Rosemont Hall at 10:50. The estate sat on 42 acres of rolling green, with the main house, a 3-story Victorian beauty, rising at the end of the driveway like something out of a novel. To the left, the conservatory glittered with morning sun, its glass walls catching the light. To the right, the rose terrace stretched out toward the lake, where a small white pavilion waited for couples who liked to say their vows over water. Behind the house, the original 1890s carriage house had been converted into a luxury bridal suite. I knew every nail, every floorboard, every receipt. Theo squeezed my hand. "Are you ready?" "I have been ready for 30 years, I said. We did not park near the main entrance. I had Theo pull around the side, near the staff lot, where my regular car already waited, a midnight blue sedan that the valet team knew belonged to me. I walked in through the side service door, the way I always did. I went straight to my office on the second floor and changed quickly. Not into a power suit, not into anything dramatic. I just changed my blouse to a slightly nicer one, slipped on a thin gold necklace Theo had given me, and put on a coat of lipstick. I wanted to look like myself. Just myself, the version of myself I had become when nobody from my family was watching. Priya was waiting in my office when I came out of the bathroom. She had a tablet in her hand and a small, controlled smile. "They are in the foyer," she said. "Your sister has just informed Andre at the front desk that the venue is hers for the next 2 hours and that he should clear the gardens of any other guests." Of course she has. What did Andre say? He said, very politely, that the gardens were already private for her tour and that she had nothing to worry about. She told him he should be honored to be working her engagement. I laughed out loud. Honored Andre. Andre had been with me for 6 years. He had a master's degree in hospitality from Cornell and turned down 2 bigger offers to stay at Rosemont. He was 41, unflappable, and had once gently escorted a senator out of a wedding for getting handsy with a server. Where is she now? In the foyer. Your mother is admiring the chandelier. Mason is on his phone. Camille is informing the housekeeper that there is a smudge on one of the windows. And the deposit check. Priya tapped her tablet. Already processed yesterday, $40,000 cleared. She also paid for an additional photographer and a string quartet through us. Total of $47,200. All right, I straightened my coat. I am going to walk down. Give me a 5-minute head start, then send the official tour guide. Make sure it is Beatrice. Beatrice was 64, sharp as a tack, and had been one of my first hires. She also did not suffer fools, which was exactly what I wanted today. Priya nodded, and the rest. The rest just happens. Tell everyone to do their jobs. Tell them not to look at me when I walk in. Tell them to look at her. Today is her day. Priya allowed herself a real smile. Yes, Miss Brennan. I walked down the back staircase, the one the staff used, and came out near the kitchen. I waved to Marcus, the head chef, who was prepping for a small luncheon tasting later. He waved back without breaking his knife rhythm. I walked through the long hall that led to the main foyer, and as I came around the last corner, I could hear my sister. Mom, look at this floor. Italian marble. I told you, did I not? This is what I deserve. This is the kind of place where my engagement should happen. Mason, are you listening? Are you taking this in? Mason mumbled something I could not hear. I stopped just inside the doorway, in the small alcove with the umbrella stand, and I watched them for a long moment. Mom was standing by the chandelier, her phone held up, taking pictures from below. She was wearing the same coat she had worn for 10 years, and her hair was still in the soft curls she set every morning. She looked smaller than I remembered. Tired. Camille was in the center of the room, in a tight white dress and heels she could barely walk in, her arms spread out like she was greeting subjects. Mason hovered near the door, the velvet box still in his hand, looking like a man who had walked into the wrong movie. I took a breath, I stepped into the light. Camille, I said. She turned. Her face did 3 things in 1 second. Surprise, then irritation, then a kind of triumph I had seen 1,000 times before. Oh, she said, you came. You invited me, did you not? In a roundabout way. Mom looked over and frowned. Hadley, what are you doing here? Camille is having a private tour. I know, I said, that is why I am here. Camille smiled then, slow and wide. From her purse, she pulled out a folded slip of paper. My deposit check. She had somehow gotten it from somewhere. Probably Mom. Probably the day I had naively mailed the family a copy of the receipt to prove I had really booked the place. She held it up between 2 fingers. Hadley, sweetheart, she said, we need to have a little talk. I looked at the check in the hand of Camille and felt absolutely nothing. That surprised me. I had thought I would feel a flare of anger, or at least a small flinch of old hurt. Instead, I felt the calm of a person who has been preparing for a storm for 30 years and has finally stepped out onto the porch to watch it arrive. What about Camille? I said. She walked toward me, slow and deliberate, her heels clicking on the marble I had personally chosen from a quarry outside Carrara in 2022. She stopped about 3 feet away. Mom drifted closer, her phone now lowered. Mason hovered by the door, frozen. This place, Camille said, holding the check up so the light caught it. You really thought you were going to get married here? You, in your little dollar store wedding shoes. I looked down at my flats, which were actually from a designer she could not pronounce. I said nothing. Hadley, be honest with yourself. This venue costs more for 1 day than you make in a year. I called and asked. The bridal package alone is $68,000. You did not even have the bridal package on your deposit. You had the cheapest one, the off-peak Wednesday afternoon special. I asked them. She had not asked them. She had asked Priya, who had told her exactly what she wanted to hear, because I had instructed Priya to confirm whatever lies Camille told herself. Mom called me last week, Camille continued. She said she was worried sick about you, that you were going to humiliate the whole family by trying to throw some pretend rich person wedding here and then defaulting on the bill 3 weeks before. She is right, Hadley. She is always right. You are going to embarrass us all. I looked at Mom. Mom did not meet my eyes. She found a very interesting spot on the floor. So I did you a favor, Camille said. She held up the check higher. I called the venue. I asked them to release your booking. They said you had a non-refundable deposit. But Mason and I have real money, Hadley. We have the kind of money that makes problems go away, so I booked the venue for my engagement instead. June 21st is mine now. Your date, I took it. I felt the air shift behind me. Priya had quietly come into the room. Beatrice was right behind her, standing back, her hands folded. You took my wedding date, I repeated slowly, just to make sure the camera in the corner caught the audio. Because yes, every public area of Rosemont Hall has discreet security cameras, and yes, they record audio. I had checked that morning. I am giving you back your $40,000 in pieces. Consider it a gift, she smiled. You will never afford a place like this anyway, sweetie. Stop pretending. Marry your little architect at a Holiday Inn in Connecticut. That is more your speed. And then she did it. She tore the check. She tore it once, twice, 4 times, 8, and she let the pieces fall to the floor, one slow flutter at a time, while she watched my face for the reaction she had been hungry for since 1993. I gave her nothing. I just watched the pieces land. I watched a small triangular corner settle on the toe of my flat, and I gently shook it off. Mom finally spoke. Her voice was soft, the kind of soft she used in church. Hadley, honey, do not make a scene. Camille has been planning this for weeks. She and Mason have been through so much. They deserve this. You will get married, you will get your turn, let her have it, she is the successful one. There it was, the sentence that had been the soundtrack of my whole life, just spoken out loud for the first time in plain English. Let her have it, she is the successful one. I looked at my mother. Diane Brennan, 67 years old, widowed, the woman who had carried me for 9 months and then chosen another daughter for the next 34 years. I felt something small and tender break inside me, not for myself, for her. Because she had no idea what was about to happen, and a part of me, even now, did not want to watch her face when she figured it out. But I did want to watch. I am not going to lie. A part of me, the part that had been the porcelain horse and the munchkin and the girl whose boyfriend had been stolen at her own kitchen table, wanted to watch very much. I smiled, a small, mild smile. The smile of a person who has just been told a slightly boring story. Okay, I said. Camille blinked. Okay. Okay, Camille, enjoy the tour. I gestured toward Beatrice, who stepped forward perfectly on cue. Miss Brennan, Beatrice said, looking at Camille. I am Beatrice Holloway, the senior estate liaison. I will be conducting your tour today. Shall we begin in the conservatory? Camille recovered quickly. She tossed her hair. Yes, finally some real service. Come on, Mom. Mason, put away your phone. Hadley, you can leave now. I think I will stay, I said. I have never seen a tour here. I would love to see what the place looks like. Suit yourself. Try not to drool on the floor. Beatrice gave Camille a polite, professional nod and led the way toward the conservatory. Mom hesitated. She looked at me, and for 1/2 of a second I saw something flicker in her face, something like doubt. Something like, why is Hadley not crying? Then it was gone, and she trotted after Camille. Mason lingered. He looked at the torn pieces of check on the floor. He looked at me. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Hadley, I am sorry, he whispered. I did not know she was going to do that. I tried to tell her this was not right. I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in 3 years. He had kind eyes, tired eyes. He looked like a man who had been in a slow-motion car crash for a long time and was finally hearing the metal scrape. Mason, I said quietly, are you actually planning to say yes? His mouth opened, no sound came out. Take your time, I said, it is a big question. Then I followed the rest of them toward the conservatory. The conservatory at Rosemont Hall is my favorite room on the entire property. It is a glass and white iron structure built in 1894, restored down to the original copper fittings, filled with citrus trees and white orchids, and a small marble fountain in the center. It seats 120 for a ceremony, with light pouring in from every direction. I had paid almost $2 million to restore it in 2023, and every cent of it had been the best money I ever spent. Camille walked in and gasped, exactly the way every visitor gasped. She spun in a circle, her arms out. This is mine. Mason, look at this. This is where you are going to get down on one knee. I mean, where I am going to get down on one knee. She laughed at her own joke. We are doing it backwards, remember, Mason? Modern engagement. I am proposing to you. Mason is not down on his knee yet, I said quietly to Priya, who had appeared at my elbow. He does not seem like he wants to be, Priya whispered back. Beatrice began her tour speech. She had given it 500 times. She talked about the year of construction, the architect, the restoration, the careful attention to original detail. She mentioned, with perfect timing, that the entire estate was privately owned by a single woman who had purchased it in 2021 and personally overseen the renovation. Who is the owner? Mom asked. Is she here today? I would love to thank her. Camille, would you not love to thank her? I do not really care, Camille said, examining a leaf on an orange tree. She is probably some old widow. Mason, take a picture of me by the fountain. Beatrice glanced at me. I gave a tiny shake of the head. Not yet. The owner is here today, actually, Beatrice said smoothly. She is often on site. She is very involved in the day-to-day operations. How nice for her, Camille said, in the tone she used for waitresses. Can we move on to the Rose Terrace? We moved on to the Rose Terrace. Then to the grand ballroom. Then to the bridal suite, which made Camille audibly squeak, then to the wine cellar, which she said was too musty, then back into the main hall. At every stop, the staff did exactly what I had asked. They were polite, warm, professional. They greeted Camille with appropriate deference. They did not look at me. They did not give me anything. They treated me, for 2 full hours, exactly the way Camille thought of me, like an awkward poor relation who had wandered in by accident. Camille loved every second of it. Mom soaked up the marble and the chandeliers like she had personally earned them. Mason got smaller and smaller, until by the end of the tour, he was barely a person, just a velvet box with a man attached to it. We arrived back in the foyer at 1:15. Beatrice closed her tablet. Well, Miss Brennan, that concludes the tour. Do you have any final questions before we finalize the details for your proposal next week? Just one. Camille smiled, sugar sweet. She turned to me. Hadley, can you afford to leave now, or do I need to call you a cab? I looked at her. I looked at Mom. I looked at Mason. I looked at Beatrice, who looked at Priya, who looked at Andre at the front desk, who looked at Marcus the chef, who had stepped out of the kitchen, who looked at the 3 housekeepers in the hall, who looked at the 2 groundsmen by the window. 27 pairs of eyes, all at once, all on me. I smiled. Actually, I said, I think I will stay a little longer. Beatrice, would you give us a moment? Beatrice nodded. She did not move. I took 2 slow steps toward the center of the foyer, into the pool of light from the chandelier. Camille, I said, Mom, there is something I should probably tell you. For a long moment, the foyer was so quiet I could hear the second hand on the grandfather clock against the far wall. It was a clock I had bought at an estate auction in Albany in 2023, paying $18,000 for it because it had been built in the same decade as the house. Every tick now felt like punctuation. Camille rolled her eyes. What, Hadley? What could you possibly have to tell us? Out with it. Mason and I have a lunch reservation. I looked at Andre. Andre was a tall Haitian man with kind eyes and a back like a steel rod. He had been waiting for this moment since I had called him the day before. Andre, I said softly, could you please come here for a moment? Andre stepped out from behind the front desk and walked across the foyer. As he approached, he did something he did every single morning when I arrived at the property. He inclined his head, a small but deliberate bow, and he said, in his clear, warm voice, "Good afternoon, Miss Brennan. I trust the day is going well for you." Camille laughed, a short, sharp laugh. Wait, are you talking to her? You think she is the Miss Brennan? Andre did not look at Camille. He continued looking at me. Will there be anything else, Miss Brennan? Not yet, Andre, thank you. He stepped back. He took his place by the desk. Camille was still laughing, but it was a thinner laugh now. Okay, this is funny. You all are confused. I am the client. I am the Miss Brennan today. Hadley is like my sister. She is here as a tag-along. Beatrice cleared her throat. Miss Camille, I believe there has been a small misunderstanding. Hadley Brennan is the proprietor of Rosemont Hall. She has been since November of 2021. Every member of the staff here reports to her. There. The words I had imagined 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways, finally spoken out loud by someone else, in a room with marble and a chandelier and my mother present. I watched Mom face. It went pale, then pink, then a strange, mottled color I had never seen on her before. Her phone slipped from her hand and hit the marble with a small crack. Nobody moved to pick it up. Camille was not laughing anymore. Her mouth was open. Her perfect white dress suddenly looked wrong on her, like a costume that did not fit. That is not true, Camille said. That is a lie. Hadley does not own anything. Hadley cleans buildings. Hadley scrubbed floors after college. That was many years ago, I said quietly. I sold that company in 2018. Sold it for what? For about $2.5 million. You are lying. I pulled my phone out of my coat pocket. I tapped it twice and turned the screen so she could see. It was the property record for Rosemont Hall in the public county database. The owner was listed plainly in black on white. Hadley Marie Brennan, date of purchase, November the 2nd of 2021. Purchase price, $6,200,000. Camille looked at the screen. She did not breathe. Mom whispered, Hadley, what is this? This is my company, Mom. This is my building. I own 3 of them. I own Rosemont Hall, I own a property called Cypress Point in Massachusetts, and I own a vineyard estate in New York called Hollowbrook. I employ 143 people across the 3. I was planning to tell you all properly at the rehearsal dinner in June. You own this place. Mom's voice broke into a thin little squeak. But you sent me $10,000 from a cleaning company 8 years ago. You let me think. I did not let you think anything, Mom. You told yourself the story you wanted to tell yourself. I just did not correct you. There is a difference. Why, she whispered, why would you not tell us? Because I knew, Mom. I knew exactly what would happen if I told you. The phone calls, the favors, the way Camille would suddenly remember I existed, the investments she would want me to make in her ideas, the vacations she would expect to be flown on. I built my life in quiet on purpose. Camille made a sound. It was not a word. It was a sort of strangled noise from the back of her throat. She looked down at the pieces of my torn deposit check, still on the floor where she had dropped them. That was my own money, she said slowly. I tore up my own check. No, I said. You tore up the check I had written to my own company. It is just a piece of paper, Camille. The funds were never going to leave my account anyway. I am paying for my own wedding. I have been paying for my own everything for a very long time. But she looked at the pieces. I booked the venue for the proposal. I paid $47,000. Yes, I said, you did. Priya, can you confirm? Priya checked her tablet. $47,200 cleared yesterday afternoon. The amount has been deposited to the operating account of Rosemont Hall. My operating account, I said gently. Camille made the strangled sound again. Mason, behind her, did something extraordinary. He sat down. Right on the marble floor, in his good suit, with the velvet box still in his hand. He just sat down like a kid in a school assembly, and he stared at me. Hadley, he said, his voice was hoarse. Hadley, oh my God. How long, Camille said, her face was a strange greenish color. How long have you been laughing at us? How long, Hadley? I have never laughed at you, Camille, not once in my whole life. I have been hurt by you, I have been embarrassed by you, I have spent years trying to understand you, but I have never laughed at you. Today is not me laughing. Today is me being done. This is humiliation. You set this up. You set us up. You knew I was coming. You let me say all of that. I let you do exactly what you came here to do, Camille. You drove 3 hours to take something from me. I just made sure you could see what you were actually trying to take. Mom was crying now. Not the soft theatrical tears she used at church, but real ugly crying, the kind that does not have a plan. She sank onto the bench by the wall. My God, Hadley, my God, why did you not just tell us? Why did you do this? Why did you do this to me, to your sister? To you, Mom? I turned to her. My voice stayed level, but something inside me was finally letting go. I did this to you. Let me tell you what you did to me. You watched my own sister tell me 40 minutes ago that I should marry the love of my life at a Holiday Inn because that is my speed. And you nodded. You nodded, Mom. You looked at the floor and you nodded, and you said, "Let her have it, she is the successful one." You said that 10 minutes ago in this room. I did not mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that. You have meant it exactly like that since I was 4 years old. The only difference today is that I am not pretending I did not hear it. Camille had picked up one of the pieces of the check. She held it in her hand like it was a small dead bird. "What about my engagement, Hadley? What about Mason? We are still doing it next week." I looked at Mason, who was still sitting on the floor. He shook his head, once, slowly. "Mason," Camille snapped, get up right now." He looked up at her. There was something in his face that had not been there an hour ago. It was the look of a man who had just woken up from a long dream and realized he was in a stranger's house. "Camille," he said, "I do not think I am going to be there next week." "What?" "I am not going to be there. I do not want to marry you, Camille. I have not wanted to for a long time. I was going to try. I was going to say yes if you asked. But I cannot do this. I am not getting engaged to a woman who tore up the check of her own sister in front of her mother and called it a favor." "Mason," her voice was high and thin. "Mason, you cannot do this here. You cannot do this in front of." "Where else, Camille, when else?" He stood up slowly. He brushed off his pants. He looked at me. "Hadley, I am sorry for everything. For 3 years of pretending I did not see, I am sorry." He walked across the foyer toward the door. As he passed Camille, he pressed the velvet box gently into her hand. "You keep it," he said. "Sell it, buy yourself something nice. You are going to need it." The front door opened. It closed. The grandfather clock ticked. Camille stared at the velvet box in her hand. Mom cried on the bench. The staff stood very still. I felt no triumph. I felt only a kind of clean, cold sadness that I had been waiting to feel my whole life. I walked over to Mom. I sat down next to her. I did not touch her, I just sat. "Mom," I said, "I love you. I have always loved you. But you and Camille and I are going to have a very different conversation than the one we have been having for 30 years. And it is not going to happen today. Today, I need you to take Camille home." Mom looked at me with wet, ruined eyes. Will you ever forgive me, Hadley?" "I do not know yet," I said honestly, "but we can find out." I stood up. I walked to the front desk. Andre handed me a tissue without being asked. I gave it to Camille, who did not take it. It fluttered to the floor next to the torn pieces of the check. "Beatrice will refund your $47,000 by end of business today," I said quietly. "Drive safely home." I turned. I walked up the grand staircase to my office, and I did not look back. I closed the door of my office and slid down against it until I was sitting on the floor. My legs were shaking. My hands were shaking. The clean, cold sadness from the foyer was now a hot, ragged thing in my chest, and I pressed the heel of my hand against my breastbone like I could hold it in. I did not cry. I sat there for a long time, breathing, listening to the muffled sounds of the building going back to normal below me. The grandfather clock ticked. A vacuum started up somewhere down the hall. A car engine in the driveway, then another, then silence. Camille and Mom were gone. The estate exhaled. Theo opened the door very gently about 20 minutes later. He had been waiting in the staff lounge. He had heard everything through Priya. He did not say anything. He just sat down on the floor next to me and put his arm around my shoulders, and I cried then, finally, the way I had not cried since my father died. I cried for the porcelain horse, for the play, for Caleb, for the $10,000 and the veneers. For every birthday cake that had a name on it that was not mine, for my mother nodding. I cried for Mason, who had sat down on a marble floor and let his whole life slide off his face. I cried for Camille too, because she had built a prison out of needing me to be less, and she had just discovered the prison had no door. "You did it," Theo said quietly into my hair. "Hadley, you did it." "I do not feel like I did anything." "You did. You stopped pretending to be smaller. That is the biggest thing a person can do." We sat on the floor for almost an hour. When I finally stood up, my legs were stiff, but my chest was lighter. I washed my face in the small bathroom off my office. I looked in the mirror. My eyes were red, but I looked like myself. I looked like the woman who owned this building. When I came out, Priya was waiting. She had a cup of tea and the day calendar. "Take the afternoon," she said. "I have rebooked the tasting. The luncheon is handled. Beatrice has already processed the refund for Camille. Has she said anything, Camille? She left without speaking. Your mother was crying in the passenger seat. I do not know who drove. Mason. Andre called him a car. He waited outside for it. He asked Andre to thank you again before he left. I nodded. I picked up the cup of tea. The afternoon sun was slanting through the tall windows of my office, golden and patient. Outside, the rose hedges were just starting to bud. June was 3 months away. My wedding was 3 months away. I had a date to keep. Priya, I said, I want to do something. I want to take June 22nd off the books too, the whole weekend. Already done. I assumed you would want privacy. And the rest of the summer schedule. She handed me the tablet. We went through it together. 2 corporate retreats in July, 3 weddings in August. A charity gala for a Children of the Hospital Fund in September that I had been chairing for 2 years. Life kept going. Buildings kept needing me. Staff kept needing paychecks. Brides kept needing flowers. The world did not stop because my sister had finally tipped over. I went home that night. I let Theo cook me pasta. I ate it on the couch in my pajamas while he played a record by some old jazz singer I never remembered the name of. We did not talk about Camille. We did not talk about Mom. We talked about the linen samples for our reception tablecloths. We talked about whether to have peonies or garden roses. We talked about the small, simple things that make a life, and slowly, my chest stopped hurting. The next morning, my phone had 47 missed calls. 23 from Mom, 11 from Camille, 2 from Mason, the rest from numbers I did not recognize, mostly with Connecticut area codes. Word had traveled fast. My cousin Lainey had texted. My Aunt Roberta had texted. A second cousin I had not seen since 2009 had texted a single question mark. I read them all. I responded to none. On Sunday, March 16th, I drove out to my mother house in Westbrook Falls. I did not call ahead. Theo offered to come with me. I said no. This part I had to do alone. The yellow house looked the same as it always looked. The porch still sagged. The screen door still hung slightly crooked. The mailbox still said Brennan in the same hand-painted letters my father had done in 1989. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I went up the walk. Mom opened the door before I knocked. She must have seen me through the curtain. Her face was puffy. She was wearing the same coat she had worn at the venue. She had not even taken it off in 2 days. Hadley, she said. Oh, Hadley. Hi, Mom, can I come in? We sat at the kitchen table. The same kitchen table where Camille had sat on the lap of Caleb. The same kitchen table where Mom had told me I was being dramatic when I had cried about it. There were 100 ghosts at that table. They sat down with us. Mom had made coffee. She poured 2 cups. Her hand shook a little when she handed me mine. I do not know how to start this, she said. Then I will start it, I said. Mom, I am not here to fight. I am not here to make you grovel. I am here because you are my mother, and because I love you in spite of everything, and because the way we have been doing this for 34 years cannot continue. She nodded. She did not look at me. I need to ask you some questions, and I need real answers, not the answers you think will make me feel better. Real ones. Can you do that? I can try. When did you know that you loved her more than me? She closed her eyes, a long silence. The refrigerator hummed. I did not love her more than you, Hadley. I want you to know that. I never loved her more. Mom. I treated her differently. That is true. I will not lie to you about that anymore. But it was not love. It was fear. I set my cup down. Fear of what? Of her, Hadley. I was afraid of her. Even when she was a little girl, she had this thing. If she did not get what she wanted, she would scream until she made herself sick. She would scream until she vomited. Do you remember the trip to your aunt's house when you were 6? She broke her own arm jumping off the porch railing because I would not buy her a doll. She broke her own arm to spite me. And then she told everyone I had pushed her. I did remember. I remembered the cast. I remembered the strange, suspicious eyes of my aunt all weekend. You were so easy, Hadley. You were so good. I told myself that you understood, that you were the strong one. That Camille needed more because Camille was breakable. And I kept telling myself that for so long that I forgot you were breakable too. I forgot you were a child too. I am so sorry, Hadley. I am so sorry. She was crying, I let her. I did not reach across the table. Why did you nod, Mom, on Friday? When she said let her have it, she is the successful one. Why did you nod? Because I have nodded my whole life. Because I do not know how to do anything else when she is in the room. Because. She wiped her face. Because I told myself you would be okay. You always are, you always have been. I told myself that you would forgive us. That you always do. I always have, I said quietly. Until Friday. Friday I did not. I know, I saw your face. I saw your face in the foyer, Hadley, and I have not been able to sleep since. I sipped my coffee, I let her cry. I thought about what I wanted from this woman and I realized something. I did not want her to be a different mother. I wanted her to be honest. Just once. About what she had done and what she had failed to do and who she had become because of it. She was being honest, finally. I could feel it. After 34 years of theater, this was the first true conversation we had ever had. Mom, I said, I am going to ask you something hard, and I want you to think before you answer. Okay. Are you and Camille going to come to my wedding in June? Her face crumpled. Hadley, I want to so much, but... But what? But Camille will not come if I come. She told me last night. She said if I ever speak to you again, she will not speak to me. She said she will move and she will not give me her address. She said I have to choose. I had expected this. I had not expected the small, mean thrill of relief that went through me when she said it. Mom, I said, I am not going to make you choose. I am not even going to ask you to come. But I want you to know that you are invited. You will always be invited. Whether you come or not is up to you. She nodded. She wiped her face with a napkin. Hadley, can I ask you something now? Yes. Why did you not tell us about the money, the buildings, any of it? I thought about it for a long moment. Because the first time I had money, when I sent you that $10,000, Camille had veneers within 3 weeks. And I knew that if I ever told you the truth, my life would stop being mine. Every dollar would be a fight. Every accomplishment would be a question of what I was going to do for the family. I needed something that was just mine, Mom. I needed something nobody could take from me before I even had it. She nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? I think I am starting to. I finished my coffee. I stood up. At the door I turned. Mom, I love you. I am going home now. You have my number. Use it or do not use it. That part is up to you. She did not say goodbye. She just stood at the door and watched me walk down the path to my car. When I pulled away, she was still standing there. She looked very small. The next 2 weeks were quiet in a strange way. Quiet like the eye of a storm, where everything is still, but you can feel the second wall coming. Camille did not call. She did, however, do other things. By Monday, March 17th, she had posted 3 different versions of the story on her social media accounts. In the first version, I was a deranged sister who had tricked her into a humiliating tour for revenge over an old childhood argument. In the second version, I had been jealous of her relationship with Mason and had paid him off to break up with her in public. In the third version, which she posted on Tuesday morning after sleeping on it, I was a rich woman who had hidden my wealth from my poor grieving family for years and had finally been exposed as a fraud who looked down on her own mother. The third version got a lot of traction. People love the story of a successful woman who is secretly mean to her relatives. Camille had 11,000 followers on her Instagram, mostly women in their 30s who liked lifestyle content. Some of them found my business email. Some of them sent very long messages. I read the first 3, I did not read the rest. Theo wanted me to respond. Priya wanted me to respond. My business attorney, a sharp woman named Yasmin Cole who had been with me since 2019, definitely wanted me to respond, with a cease and desist letter she had ready in her drafts folder. I said no to all of them, not yet. I knew Camille. I knew the pattern. She would post and post and post until she got the reaction she wanted, and if she did not get the reaction, she would escalate until she did. The way to win against Camille was not to play. The way to win was to be quiet for so long that her own noise became unbearable to her. On March 22nd, a journalist for a small lifestyle blog out of Hartford reached out to me directly. She had seen the posts of Camille. She wanted my side of the story. She seemed kind. Her name was Renata Ellis. I almost said no, then I thought about it. I called Yasmin. If I do an interview, just one interview, the right way, with the right person, could it shut the rest of this down? It could, Yasmin said, or it could feed it. It depends on the journalist. It depends on what you say. It depends on what you do not say. Vet Renata Ellis for me. If she is decent, I will do it. Yasmin called me back the next morning. She is decent. She does small business profiles. She is not a tabloid person. She did a piece last year on a woman who started a soap company after leaving an abusive marriage. She is fair. Set it up. We did the interview on March 28th at my office at Rosemont Hall. Renata came alone. She had a small recorder and a notebook and very kind eyes. She did not ask me about Camille for the first 40 minutes. She asked me about my father, about my first business, about the building, about Theo, about what it had felt like to bid on Rosemont Hall in 2021 and know that I was about to become the owner of the kind of place my mother had cleaned in her 20s. I had not known that. About my mother. Renata had done her research. She told me that according to a public records check, my mother had worked as a hotel housekeeper for 2 years before my father had married her. She showed me the record on her phone. I stared at it for a long time. She never told me that, I said. It might be why she nodded, Renata said quietly. Sometimes the people we are jealous of we make sure to never see clearly. I let that sit for a moment. Then I told her my version of the story, all of it, the porcelain horse, the munchkin, Caleb, the veneers, March 14th in the foyer. The torn check, my mother on the bench, Mason on the marble floor. I did not name anyone except Camille. I called Mom only my mother. I said her name only when I had to. I gave Mason no last name. I told the story simply, the way I am telling it now. Renata took notes and did not interrupt. At the end, she said, "Hadley, why are you telling me this? Why now?" Because if I do not tell it, my sister will keep telling it. And the version she tells does not include the part where she tore my check up in front of my mother. And I think that part matters. The article ran on April 4th, a Friday. It was titled Quiet Money, Loud Family, The Hadley Brennan Story. It was 4,000 words. It was fair, it was kind, it was true. It went viral. By Saturday, it had been picked up by 3 larger sites. By Sunday, it was being discussed on a morning television show. By Monday, my business email had 940 new messages, and Rosemont Hall had 37 new wedding inquiries. The discourse, as Yasmin called it, broke down along expected lines. Some people thought I was a hero. Some people thought I was a cold sister who had publicly humiliated her family for sport. Some people thought my mother was the real villain. Some people thought my sister was. Some people were just there for the spectacle. I did not read most of it. I let Yasmin and Priya monitor what needed monitoring. I focused on my wedding. Camille deleted her posts on April 5th. All 3 versions gone overnight. She also deleted her entire Instagram account. By April 7th, she had also deleted her LinkedIn, her Facebook, her old blog from 2018, and any other digital trace I could find of her. It was like she had decided to disappear from the internet entirely. I did not know what that meant. I did not let myself wonder too long. Mom called me on April 8th. It was the first time we had spoken since the kitchen. Her voice was small. "Hadley, I read the article. I figured you would. I did not know you knew that. About me, the housekeeping. I did not know, Mom. The journalist found it. You never told me. I was ashamed of it. I do not know why. I was 19. It was honest work. It was honest work, Mom. I should have been proud. I should have been proud that my daughter ended up owning a place like that. Instead, she started crying. Instead, I told myself, you must have done something wrong, that you must have cheated somebody. That nice, quiet girls do not end up with buildings. I told myself that, Hadley, in my own head, about my own daughter. Who am I? I did not have an answer for that. Mom, I have to ask, have you talked to Camille? She came by yesterday. She is not doing well, Hadley. She lost her job. What job? At the marketing firm. They saw the article, they saw her posts, they let her go on Monday. I am sorry to hear that. Are you? I thought about it. Honestly, Mom, I am sorry that she is suffering. I am not sorry that she has consequences for the first time in her life. Those are two different things. She wants to talk to you. I am sure she does. Will you talk to her? Not yet. When? I do not know, Mom. When I am ready. When she is ready. Right now I am planning my wedding. I am not going to let her have this season too. A long silence. Hadley. Yes. If she is not invited, if I come, will it be all right? I closed my eyes. The simplest sentence, and it had taken 34 years to arrive. Yes, Mom, it will be all right. You are invited. You have always been invited. Can I bring a dress to your venue? Can someone help me pick a dress? I do not have anything nice enough for that place. Mom, I own a venue, not a dress shop. But yes, I will help you. We can go shopping together. She cried into the phone, quiet, ugly, real crying. I sat at my desk in my office and let her cry for as long as she needed. By the time we hung up, the sun had set over the Rose Terrace. The lights had come on in the conservatory for an evening tasting. The world kept turning. My wedding was 64 days away. Mason called me on April 17th. I almost did not answer. His name on the screen felt like a piece of debris from a shipwreck, drifting into a calm bay. Hadley, I am sorry to bother you. I would understand if you hung up. I am not going to hang up, Mason. What is going on? I need to tell you something. 2 things. Can I buy you coffee? You can buy me coffee. Pick a place not in Connecticut and not in Manhattan. We met in a small bakery in Beacon, New York, halfway between his place and mine. He had lost weight. He looked older. He looked also, oddly, more like a person than he had in years. The velvet box was not in his hand. The first thing, he said, I need to say I am sorry, properly, not on a marble floor while having the worst day of my life. Properly. I knew Hadley. I knew for a long time who she was. I told myself I could love it out of her, that I could be patient enough or kind enough or steady enough. I let her treat people badly because I told myself I was the one who would teach her how to be different. I was wrong. And I let her treat you badly more than once. I was at the dinner in 2023 when she told everyone you were on food stamps. I did not say anything. I am sorry. I remembered the dinner. I had not been on food stamps. I had been negotiating a $1.5 million property at the time. The memory had a different shape now. Thank you, Mason. That means something. The second thing, I do not know if it matters, but I think you should know. Camille has been telling people, our friends, my family, that she is pregnant. I set down my coffee. Is she? No, she is not. She told me she was on March 1st, 2 weeks before the tour. She was planning to use that to push the engagement. She admitted on April 10th that she had made it up. She told me over text. She told me she had never been pregnant. She had taken a test that morning to prove it to herself, she said. She told me she was sorry. She told me she wanted to come back. And what did you say? I said no. I said I was sorry too, but no. I blocked her number after that. I looked at him for a long moment. The bakery was warm. A woman behind the counter was singing along to a song on the radio. Mason, why are you telling me this? Because she has been telling people in our circle that she lost the baby in late March, after the venue incident. She is saying the stress of what you did to her caused her to miscarry. Hadley, she is telling people that you killed her baby. There was no baby. There was never a baby. I have the texts. I will give them to you. I will testify if you ever need it. I just thought you needed to know. I sat very still. I felt the cold thing in my chest reach out and put its hand around the warm thing. Send me the texts, Mason. I already did. Check your email. I checked. He had sent them at 6:30 that morning. 3 screenshots. Clear, dated, from his own number to hers, from her own number to his. There was no baby. There had never been a baby. The miscarriage story was a lie built on top of a lie built on top of another lie. Thank you, I said quietly. I am sorry, Mason. Sorry for what? For what she did to you. I am sorry too, Hadley, for what she did to you, for a lot longer than she did it to me. We sat in the bakery for another hour. He told me he was moving to Denver in May, a new job, a new apartment, a new everything. He told me he was going to start therapy. He said he had not been a good man for the last 3 years, and he wanted to be again, and he did not know yet how to do that, but he was going to try. When we left, he hugged me, briefly and awkwardly, and then he was gone. I walked back to my car in the bright April sunshine and sat in the driver's seat for 10 minutes before I could turn the key. I drove home. I gave the screenshots to Yasmin that night. I asked her to draft a cease and desist letter, the one that had been in her drafts folder for weeks. I asked her to send it to Camille on Monday morning, registered mail, with a copy to my mother. The letter laid out, in plain professional language, the specific lies Camille had told, the specific damages those lies had caused, and the specific legal action that would follow if any more lies were told about me, my business, or my wedding. Yasmin sent it Monday at 9 a.m. By Monday at noon, Camille had called my mother 31 times. By Monday at 4, she had driven to my mother's house. By Tuesday morning, she had moved in. Mom called me on Tuesday afternoon. Her voice was tight. "Hadley, she is here. She is in the guest room. She says she has nowhere else to go." "How are you, Mom?" "I do not know how to do this. I do not know how to have her in the house and also be able to come to your wedding. She knows I am still planning to come. She is very angry." "Mom, listen to me. You do not have to do this. You do not have to host her. She is a grown woman. She has options. She has the engagement ring she got from Mason. She has skills. She can rent an apartment. You are allowed to tell her no." "I have never told her no, Hadley. Not once. I do not know how." "Then start small. Tell her she can stay for 2 weeks. Tell her she has to be out by May 6th. Tell her you love her, but you are not in a position to host her past that, and then hold the line. What if she screams? What if she breaks something? Then you call me, or you call the police. But she is not going to break anything, Mom, because if she does, I will press charges. And she knows it now. She knows there are consequences. The cease and desist made that clear." Mom was silent for a long moment. "Hadley, I am scared." "I know, Mom. I was scared for 34 years. You are going to be all right. You can do this. You are stronger than you think." She called me again that night. She had told Camille 2 weeks. Camille had cried, then yelled, then locked herself in the guest room. Mom had stayed in the kitchen with the door locked. She had eaten a frozen dinner alone. She told me it was the first frozen dinner she had eaten in years. She told me she had felt, in a strange way, free. "Hadley," she said before we hung up, "I am going to do this. I am going to come to your wedding. I am going to wear a dress that fits me, and I am going to walk into that beautiful building, and I am going to be proud of you out loud. For the first time. Out loud." "I would love that, Mom. I would love that very much." The next 6 weeks were a strange kind of montage. I went dress shopping with Mom on April 26th. We drove into Manhattan together. I took her to a small boutique in Soho that I had been to twice before. She picked out a pale blue dress with a soft drape that made her look 10 years younger. The price tag was $900. She tried to put it back on the rack. I bought it without telling her. I worked on seating charts. I worked on the menu. I worked on the music. Theo and I argued gently about whether to have a sit-down dinner or family style. He won, family style. I went to my final dress fitting on May 14th. My dress was simple, ivory silk, a long train, no lace. I had wanted it to be uncomplicated. I had wanted everything about this day to be uncomplicated. Camille moved out of the house of Mom on May 6th, on time. She moved into a rented studio in a town 2 hours away. She did not say goodbye to Mom. Mom told me she had left a note on the kitchen counter that said only, "I hope you are happy." Mom had thrown the note in the trash. On May 22nd, exactly 1 month before my wedding, I received an email. The subject line was, "Hadley, please." It was from Camille. It was the first time I had heard from her directly since March 14th. I let it sit unopened for 2 days. On the morning of May 24th, I made myself a cup of coffee. I sat down at the kitchen table in our Brooklyn apartment. Theo was at work. The morning was quiet. I opened the email. It was long, 3 full pages. I read every word. The email of Camille was not what I expected. I had braced myself for rage, for accusation, for a final attempt to rewrite the story. Instead, what I read was something stranger and harder to dismiss. I read 3 pages of a person trying, awkwardly and for the first time in her life, to look at herself. She wrote about the porcelain horse. She remembered breaking it. She remembered the lie. She wrote that she had been 10, and she did not know why she had done it, except that she had wanted Mom to look at her with the soft, tired eyes Mom usually saved for me when I was reading in a corner. She had wanted Mom to come to her room and sit on her bed. She had wanted me to be in trouble for a change. She wrote about Caleb. She remembered the dress. She remembered the lap. She wrote that she had been 17, and she had not actually wanted Caleb. She had wanted to know if she could take him. She wrote that the answer being yes had felt like a poison she could not stop drinking. She wrote about the dinner in 2023 and the food stamp lie. She wrote about the veneers. She wrote about the pregnancy lie and the miscarriage lie and the marble floor. She wrote about every awful thing she had done, one by one, in a list that was 4 pages long, and she wrote that she was not asking for forgiveness because she did not deserve forgiveness, but she was asking for a chance to say sorry properly, to my face, before my wedding. She did not ask to come to the wedding. She wrote very plainly that she knew she could not. She wrote that she just wanted to see me one time, in a coffee shop or a park or anywhere, for 15 minutes, and then she would leave me alone. She wrote that she had started therapy on April 30th. She wrote that her therapist had asked her, in their 4th session, what she would have to give up if she really tried to change. She wrote that she had cried for 40 minutes in the office and had said, finally, I would have to give up being special. I would have to be just a regular person. I do not know how to be a regular person. I read the email twice. Then I closed my laptop and went for a walk. I walked across the Brooklyn Bridge in the May sunshine. I walked all the way to Lower Manhattan and back. By the time I got home, 3 hours had passed and I had decided. I wrote her back that evening, 2 lines. Saturday, May 31st, the diner on Route 9 in Cold Spring, 2 p.m., 15 minutes. She wrote back within an hour, I will be there, thank you. I told Theo. He raised his eyebrows. He said only, are you doing this for her or for you? For me, I said, because I do not want to walk down the aisle on June 21st still carrying her. I want to set her down before I get there. He nodded. He did not ask to come. He understood. On Saturday, May 31st, I drove to the diner on Route 9. It was a small old place with red vinyl booths and a long counter. I had been there once, years ago, with my father, when he had driven me up to look at colleges. The smell of the coffee was the same as I remembered it. Camille was already there. She was in a booth in the back. She did not have makeup on. She was wearing jeans and a plain gray sweater. She looked 37, which was her actual age, instead of the 27 she usually styled herself to be. She had a coffee in front of her and her hands were wrapped around it. I slid into the booth across from her. Hadley. Camille. We did not hug, neither of us tried. A waitress came over. I ordered black coffee. The waitress left. The clock on the wall ticked. We had 15 minutes. I read your email, I said. Thank you for coming. I am not here to tell you it is okay. It is not okay. None of it is okay. I know. I am here because I want to say a few things to you, and I want you to hear them, and then I am going to leave. All right. I took a breath. You hurt me, Camille. From the time I was a baby until 2 months ago, you hurt me on purpose. You did not hurt me because you were broken in a way that you could not help. You hurt me because hurting me was a way for you to feel real. I know that now. Your email helped me see it, but knowing it does not make it okay. It just makes it sad. She nodded. She did not interrupt. I am not going to be your sister the way I used to be your sister. I do not know if I am going to be your sister at all. That part I do not know yet. But I am going to tell you what I am willing to consider and what I am not willing to consider, and then I am going to leave. All right. I am not willing to give you money. Not now, not in 5 years, not ever. If you ever ask me for money, I will not give it to you, and I will not feel bad about it. The same goes for Mom. If you pressure her for money on my behalf or use my name to get loans, I will sue you. I will not blink. She winced. She nodded. I am not willing to be in pictures with you. Not at family events, not at holidays, not at funerals. If you and I are in the same room, we will be 2 people in a room. I will not pretend we are close for the cameras. The performance is over. She closed her eyes for a moment. All right. I am not willing to forgive you today. Maybe not next year. Maybe not ever. I do not know yet, Camille. I have to live with that, so do you. I understand. What I am willing to do, I am willing to consider in time, in maybe a year or two, if you are still in therapy and if you are still doing the work, having a conversation with you again. One conversation, not a relationship. A conversation, and if that conversation goes well, maybe another one, we will see. She started to cry, quietly, into her coffee cup. That is more than I deserve. Probably, but I am not doing it for what you deserve. I am doing it for what I can live with. I drank my coffee, the waitress refilled our cups. I told Camille she was always special and did not need to take things from me to be worthy. She cried. She asked to send me a single card on the 21st day of June. I agreed. I left the diner feeling light. 3 weeks later, on the morning of my wedding at Rosemont Hall, my mother gave me the card of Camille. It said the smallest and quietest girl of the family became the tallest person in the room. I kept it in my dress bag. The ceremony included 112 guests, including all my staff. I walked down the aisle alone because my father had been gone for 23 years. Theo cried and held my hand. We exchanged simple vows and became husband and wife. During the reception, I told Priya I was giving ownership stakes to my senior staff. Later, my mother told me she sold the large house and bought a new condo nearby so we could be closer. She also shared that my father always considered me the brave one of the family. We hugged and reconciled. While dancing with Theo, I realized I no longer needed to make myself small to survive my family. I had grown too tall for their box. After the wedding, I finalized the ownership transfers to my staff. My mother moved to the new condo. Camille moved to North Carolina for therapy and a new job, and we did not contact each other. Theo and I went on a honeymoon, leaving my staff to run the business perfectly. Ultimately, this story is not about money or buildings. It is about a quiet girl who learned she did not have to shrink herself to survive her family. If you are the quiet one, you are allowed to grow, set boundaries, and design your own life without apologizing. I built Rosemont Hall with my own money. But what I built that day in the foyer, in front of my mother and my sister and 27 staff members who knew exactly who I was something more valuable than any building. I built myself, out loud, for the first time. And I learned that when you finally stand up to your full height, the people who love you do not flinch. They smile. They bow, in their own small ways, because they have been waiting for you to be all of yourself for as long as they have known you. Theo and I are still in Brooklyn. Mom is still in Saratoga Springs. Rosemont Hall is still booked solid through next spring. Priya, Beatrice, Andre, and Marcus are still each 3% owners and getting better at their jobs every day. Camille is still in North Carolina, still in therapy, still figuring out how to be a regular person. We are all of us, every one of us, still becoming. If this story moved you, if any part of it felt familiar, I would love for you to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because there are more stories like mine coming, and I do not want you to miss them. And if you have your own story, your own quiet little sister story, your own torn check story, your own moment in a foyer when everything finally changed, please share it in the comments below. I will read them. I will read every single one, because the truth is, none of us are the smallest ones in our families. We are just the ones who have not been heard yet. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying with me to the end. Take care of yourselves. Take care of the quiet ones around you. And the next time someone tells you that you cannot afford a place like this, smile and enjoy the tour.